My name is Mike Hestrin, and I'm the elected District Attorney of Riverside County, serving in that role since 2015. Riverside County, located to the east of Los Angeles and north of San Diego County, is not on the U.S.-Mexico border, but is significantly impacted by border issues, particularly drug trafficking and illegal immigration. Due to its proximity to border-adjacent counties, Riverside County is heavily affected by the movement of drugs such as fentanyl. Several major freeways in Riverside County are known as drug trafficking corridors, providing direct routes from the border to Southern California and beyond. Interstate 15 in particular serves as a critical north-south corridor for traffickers moving illicit drugs from the border area through our communities and then further on into the United States. To combat this threat, law enforcement agencies like the Riverside County Sheriff's Department, California Highway Patrol actively monitor these corridors and conduct interdiction operations. For example, on August 20th, U.S. Border Patrol agents from the Newton-Azraq Border Patrol Station confiscated 81 pounds of cocaine during a traffic stop on Interstate 15 in Temecula. The Newton-Azraq Border Patrol Station, located in Murrieta, also in Riverside County, and overseen by the San Diego Sector Patrol, reported seizing 2,437 pounds of cocaine this fiscal year, an increase of 300 pounds from the previous year. Agents also confiscated 3,627 pounds of methamphetamine, 31 pounds of heroin, and 475 pounds of fentanyl. On a national level, the data from the Department of Homeland Security shows that fentanyl seizures have risen dramatically. In fiscal year 2021, U.S. Customs and Border Protection seized over 11,000 pounds of fentanyl, nearly double the amount seized in 2020. And this we're seeing all across Riverside County. Our seizures are going up significantly. Fentanyl smuggling across the U.S.-Mexico border has profoundly impacted Riverside County with significant increases, as I just said, in drug seizures. The state's southern border has become a critical entry point for fentanyl entering the U.S., largely driven by the Sinaloa and Jalisco New Generation cartels, which dominate the Mexican states adjacent to California. Although we know the quantity of fentanyl seized, we don't know how much gets passed and how much gets in. But we can only assume that those numbers are incredibly large. The devastating impact of fentanyl on Riverside County is clear. In 2016, the county had only 2 fentanyl-related deaths. Since 2020, these deaths have increased 1,291% just in Riverside County. Fentanyl production begins in Mexico, where it's manufactured by Sinaloa and Jalisco cartels in covert, unsanitary labs. The cartels are expanding their marketing of fentanyl to children via social media apps. They produce counterfeit pills, and they're lacing all other drugs in Riverside County with fentanyl. In 2021, 4 out of 10 illicit pills, found on our streets contain fentanyl. That number has now risen to 7 out of 10. The Mexican drug cartels recently attempted a public relations campaign by calling for a ban on fentanyl in Mexico, including hanging banners in Sonora and Baja California. However, this is merely a distraction tactic. Ongoing seizures and fentanyl-related deaths show that production and trafficking of fentanyl into our country and into our county has not ceased. It's not diminished. The failure to control the illegal border crossings and address the influx of fentanyl into the U.S. is taking a devastating toll on the people of Riverside County. We urgently need comprehensive and tough federal action and robust initiatives to address this issue effectively. We need stronger border policies, enhanced law enforcement, and other measures that are essential to curbing fentanyl trafficking, which is fueling a crisis across the country and certainly in Riverside County. This fight cannot be waged by local officials alone. We need resources and enforcement at the border to stop this lethal threat before it reaches our communities, before it takes its toll on our people. Thank you.
Unfortunately, President Biden and Vice President Harris have decided to ignore our border and immigration laws. And I want to tell you today what the Biden-Harris open border has done to my community. The San Diego County Medical Examiner reported recently 1,203 people died last year of drug overdose. That is double the rate from just a few years ago. Fentanyl is being smuggled across our border by the drug cartels every single day, yet the administration refuses to take decisive action. One of these victims was my own friend's son. He died taking what he thought was Adderall. He bought it from a dealer whose product has certainly killed others. We're also dealing with high rates of crime. Statistics on crimes committed by illegal immigrants in California are not available because, unlike in Texas, California state policymakers refuse to allow our local law enforcement to collect these data. But over 441,000 criminal non-citizens were booked into Texas jails in recent years, including more than 542,000 criminal offenses recorded by non-citizen criminals. Those included 1,000 homicide charges, 69,000 assault charges, 9,700 for burglary, 63,000 for drug charges, 1,200 for kidnapping, 27,000 for theft, 42,000 for obstruction of police activities, 3,000 for robbery, 6,800 for sexual assault, 7,800 for sexual offenses, and 6,600 for weapons charges. The San Diego border sector receives approximately 26% of the traffic that the Texas sector does, so we can extrapolate that tens of thousands of crimes are committed in our community, the same as in Texas, that would not have occurred if we had a secure border. In Vista, I organized an anti-retail theft task force to address the epidemic of shoplifting that we're facing in our community. As we arrested shoplifters, we discovered that these are not people in need. These are people who are part of organized criminal organizations. They're stealing compact valuables that they can easily convert to cash. Several of the stores in my community, including some grocery stores and drugstores, have been forced to close in the last couple of years, creating food deserts in working class communities. Another impact of the open border. Illegal workers are driving down the wages of American citizens. They take jobs often that pay below market rate and work without the protection of our U.S. labor laws. I want to make a point that illegal labor is unfair to our American workers, and it is also unfair to illegal laborers. I've toured our open and porous border numerous times in recent years, and I've watched with puzzlement when the Biden-Harris administration took office as the prefabricated sections of the border fence remained on the ground and rusted and laid to waste after President Biden and Vice President Harris refused to complete the fence, leaving some 37 holes in the San Diego border sector, through which, as you saw in your tour yesterday, people walk through every day by the thousands. I have seen, as you probably saw yesterday, the discarded ladders. And so when we talk about people buying a taller ladder to climb over that fence, I hear that, but I also hear from U.S. Border Patrol agents directly that the wall is a force multiplier, allowing just several agents to patrol a mile of walled border where hundreds are required to patrol a mile of open border.
The Biden-Harris administration approach to border security and immigration has significantly impacted California, with San Diego County at the forefront of these challenges. Between September 2023 and May 2024, San Diego County received between 125,000 and 154,000 street releases of migrants. Many were placed on a trolley and sent and released into East County. These numbers are based on daily reports to the county's Economic Development and Government Affairs Office. These unofficial figures underscore the unprecedented and grave scale of the region's border crisis. The influx of migrants has strained local resources, including overcrowding at local hospitals.
As Undersheriff of Riverside County, the fourth largest county in the state and 10th largest county by population in the United States, serving more than 2.5 million residents, our agency covers this expansive region with a staff of over 4,100 who are dedicated to serving citizens of the communities with integrity and professionalism. Riverside County neighbors the border counties in California. We are a major artery of highways utilized by cartels and other bad actors to facilitate the trafficking of narcotics and human smuggling to other major cities and criminal hubs across the state and nation. In Riverside County alone, our narcotics investigation unit seized 359 pounds of fentanyl and over 2.3 million fentanyl pills in 2023. This does not cover other multi-agency task forces or other police agencies in the county. This is a staggering statistic of poison seized. What did we miss? We know we missed plenty. The current border crisis sanctioned by this administration has impacted all areas of the country. I spent over 10 years of my career in the assignment of narcotics enforcement. Our communities today are facing an unbelievable flow of fentanyl and fentanyl-laced drugs to suppliers, dealers, and tragically addicted individuals. Our deputies and emergency response personnel respond to dozens of overdoses and overdose fatalities daily. The flood of deadly fentanyl to our streets is overwhelming and only made possible by complete border security failures under the current administration. I frequently must answer questions as to what we in law enforcement are doing to combat this fentanyl epidemic. I have toured the border and spoken to my U.S. Border Patrol partners. They are overwhelmed by the task of dealing with illegal migrants flooding our border. They have had to abandon their normal duties of protecting our borders from criminal smuggling, instead babysitting the flood of unvetted migrants knocking down our doors. I have always known in working narcotics and analyzing cartel actions that the price of drugs go down and the shipments across the border grow larger with weak border protection. When our Border Patrol agents are diverted from their proper duties and the border is wide open, there will always be larger drug and human smuggling loads. The risk of detection and loss of illicit contraband becomes less, and the shrinking risk easily worth the reward of cartels and criminals. When border security is strong and robust, we see smaller loads and more fearful cartels, as they should be when breaking our laws and harming society. The problem must be corrected immediately, including the apprehension of dangerous substances and criminals that have already crossed our open borders. In Riverside County, we are on the forefront of the movement of humans being exploited and victimized in sex and labor trafficking. We often hear on the news of migrants paying thousands of dollars to get passes to the United States. Paying does not mean paid up front. Many are brokered into deals of slavery by means of labor and sex trafficking. The lack of true vetting of the adults bringing a child into our country is horrific. The current administration could be complicit in the delivery of a child into the sex trafficking world. The thought of compassion and humanitarian passage often, not is all what we have delivered as a country. The current administration emboldens the cartels to send misinformation and promises of funding and a better life to potential migrants, and the cartel can now exploit them for their own criminal gain. These policies create victims more often than the humanitarian effort promised. We are fearful of the current open border policies have allowed for many to enter our country with the intent to carry out terrorist acts. Our region is a frequent destination for current and past presidents and government VIPs. Our concerns have grown to the possibility these terrorists may target our region in an effort to disrupt government and U.S. leadership. As a member of the law enforcement community making policy decisions, I am sick of battling the deeply flawed changes being made in by California politicians and the current presidential administration. Drugs, human trafficking, and the unknown number of terrorists and bad actors entering unchecked is eye-opening and terrifying to our citizens. The current administration has lost their understanding of the job of government and public safety. I can only hope and pray the obvious necessary actions needed to protect and strengthen the border are taken seriously and repaired immediately. That our Border Patrol agents are again allowed to do the work they are experts at, and the misguided politics is removed. Weak borders do mean a weak country, one to evade and abuse.
What has occurred over the past nearly 4 years at the southwest border has led to a crisis that every member of this country should be made aware. What I've seen in terms of the exploitation of migrants by cartels is horrifying, but awareness of the true crisis at the border must be understood. I have firsthand knowledge of how this crisis is destroying lives because for the last year, I have led an operation and most recently a nonprofit organization in the San Diego County area. San Diego County has become ground zero for the unmitigated incursion into the United States by undocumented migrants being smuggled here by cartels. There is a misconception that the over 10 million undocumented people coming across the border in the last 4 years are just looking for a better life. While that is true in many cases, U.S. government policy at the border is facilitating a multi-billion-dollar smuggling operation by the cartels. The cartels are not simply providing transportation for a cost. They are sexually assaulting women and children, and they're taking the lives of people without any fear of retribution.